Hi everybody, this is the website boy again with another tutorial here on JavaScript. Now today we're going to be talking about while loops, and this code is for the last tutorial about switch statements. And in while loops or loops, sometimes we use some of these conditional structures there. All right, so these control structures are very useful when we're using loops. But anyway, let's talk about while loops. Let's go ahead and do a save as, and let's go to while loops. Let's do the 35 on this series here, and let's talk about while loops. All right, so what are while loops? All right, while loops are functions that allow us to repeat our code multiple times without physically or manually trying to do it, trying to copy and paste it, right? So for example, a I have a condition here saying, right here, I'll make a if statement, and I write a conditions, and I'm gonna say something like, if 3, something simple, is smaller than 1, I want you to alert something out, right? 3 is bigger than 1, is bigger than 1, right? So now let's say, for example, for some reason or another, I want to display this thing 10 times. How in the world am I gonna do that? Well, right now the only option I got right now is copying and pasting the same code over and over again. What about if I had a function that I want to actually execute multiple times? Instead, the user uses one of our applications, and for some reason I want to reproduce the same thing over again to the user, or produce another value to the user repeatedly. How can I do that? Well, we do it with loops. This is gonna save you a bunch of times when writing code. All right, so loops will do things for us repeatedly. All right, and I'm gonna show you the syntax, and I'm gonna show you how it works by actually creating a while loop right in front of your eyes right now. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So the structure, the syntax for the while loop goes like this. We write the keyword while, put parentheses, and then open and close curly bracket. All right, very, very, very similar to the if statement. Now, in between these parentheses, we have to write a condition just like we did for the if statement, just like we do for the if statement. So we write, let's say, if 3 is smaller than 1, I want you to do something. Alert, right? 3 is smaller than, well, bigger actually, bigger than 1. Right here, right? So this loop is going to alert that. The thing with the loop is, actually, let's just put 1 and let's just do it the opposite. My logic was actually backwards, as happens when you have too many things in your brain. So anyways, so while 1 is smaller than 5, I want you to alert 1 is smaller than 5, right? So that will happen as long as that equals to true. As long as this is true, this is happening. Remember, this is a while loop. This is a loop. It's going to keep going until it reaches that condition that is not true. So when it becomes false, this will not execute. This code will not execute right here in the middle. Right? So what is this going to do while it's going around? Well, it's going to be displaying this message right here. Now, I want you to be very careful, because a loop, when looping is fine, anybody can loop, but the problem with looping is that you need to let the code know that it needs to stop. Right now, this is gonna go infinitely around. Reason is because we're not telling the loop to do anything. We're not telling the loop to increase anything, right? So if I go like this and I open in a browser, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is gonna go into infinity. It's gonna go to infinity because we're not telling it to actually increase. We're not telling. We don't have anything there that is increasing. It's just looping around. Right now, we're not doing anything. We're just telling if as long as one is bigger, smaller than five, keep going around. One is always gonna be smaller than five, so the loop is gonna keep going around. We have to increase this one here. All right, we have to increase that. So this is the problem. You see the whole thing crash. You can't do anything there, and that's a problem. Let's open another tab. Actually, you can't even do that. So that's one of the things that you need to watch out for. All right. So we're gonna open this in another browser right now. Let's just. I don't want to quit the whole thing because I don't want to just open the whole thing up. But let's just take this, put it somewhere, and let's just open another window. Now, what I want to show you is that most of the time, the way you use while loops is you create a variable and you name the variable, for example, counter, and you set a value to that variable and you set it to 0. Then here you put your variable and then you say as long as counter is smaller than 5, I want you to display something. But now we can go ahead and increase counter. So at the end of your code here, when so the loops goes around, is going around and displays this message, what we want to do is we want to increase counter every time it goes around. So when counter increases from 0, it keeps increasing every time it goes around. So it increases to 1 next time because it went around one time. The second time increases another time. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then when it gets to 6, it's going to stop. Or it's going to stop on 4. And then it's going to say, you know what? Now the condition is not true. I got to stop. So that's what we're going to do. Let's open this in the browser and show you exactly how that works. Let me just turn this off. It's just right there, 2, 3, 4, and keeps going. We need to turn that off. As you can see, it can create a problem, and I'm gonna show you a trick on how to close this. You see that my whole browser just crashed just because I left the loop without increasing its value. So make sure that that does not happen to you. Let me see, activity monitor. I'm gonna leave this video here so that you know, if you're on a Mac, how to fix something like this. I'm gonna shut Chrome from the other side because it just crashed completely on me. I'm gonna quit right here and I'm gonna force it. So now it's just gonna force Chrome. Boom, gone. You see that? The little is gone. And I'm gonna open it again. All right. So just be careful, but don't let a loop, especially with JavaScript. JavaScript works in the browser, so don't let a loop without, don't let it alone without increasing the value of it, the value of the counter or the initializer, right? So I hope that you learned your lesson there. So let's go ahead and open this in the browser. Make sure that it works fine. 1 is smaller than 5 there. 1 is smaller than 5. It's going to do it 5 times and then it's going to quit 4 times. And now let me just show you that it does, the counter goes up every time the loop goes around. So let's just display counter so that way you can see it. Refresh. Counter is 0 right now. The first loop around. Counter is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then stops. Reason is because once it gets to 5, it's false. What we got to do, if we want the 5 there, we got to do as long as the counter is smaller or equal to 5, then stop. I mean, continue alerting this until it's the same. So refresh 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right there. Done. Right? So I hope that you were able to learn something valuable from this lesson here, from this tutorial. If you take something away from this, take away the while loop syntax. Take away how you cannot leave this by undone. Make sure that you always increase it. Now, one thing that I did not explain is this plus plus signs there, right? Symbols. let me just tell you that this is the same thing as going and doing this. Counter plus 1. All right, what are we doing here? We are increasing counter every time it goes around. So this is the end of the loop, and before we finish the loop we are increasing counter plus 1. The next time we increase counter plus 1 again, that will equal 3, 4, and it's going to keep adding up. We're using the same variable right here, plus 1, and then we are using the same variable here. So we are assigning the same variable plus 1 to the same variable here. So we're just increasing it by 1 basically. But this is used as a shorthand, plus plus. You're going to see this always every time you're doing loops. Every time you see any loops code out there, you're always going to see the plus plus. All right. So anyways, I think we're done with the while loops. Let's go ahead and start doing some do while loops and show you how that works in the next tutorial. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the next tutorial. If you like this video, favorite, like it, and hopefully you were able to take something from it. Take care.